And wakey, rise and shine at this ungodly hour of the morning. It's the morning coffee and tea with me, Macka and Trevor. Trevor, good morning. How are you?
Not too bad, Macka. How you doing?
I'm still asleep again. It's like The Walking
Yeah,
Dead, but just one person walking around the house. Um, I have the obligatory, just in case Alan is watching, the gin flavored milk or the milk flavored gin. I don't know how that works out.
it's one or the other.
It doesn't really matter as long
Chicken
as
or
it has
the
the
egg.
alcohol. As long as it has the alcohol content. Alan M says, "Good morning, guys." I don't know why anybody would want to get up early to listen to my rabbit ramblings and rabbits on. Um,
But you're here, and we appreciate
I'm here in body, if not in spirit. Alan's been awake since 3 a.m. My word, I don't envy that at all. I know those days well. So let's get cracking on it today. Just it's an interesting one, as we just discussed before. The barrenness of the international break, and especially this one with no managerial sackings for us to crow about. Um, this one here, the Premier League experienced the most injuries in European football last season, according to new research, and particularly for Liverpool. Um, the we were the third most, I think. It was Chelsea, United, us, with like around 82, 80, and 81 injuries. Um,
it's a
and then
crowded
Chelsea,
table.
yeah, City all the way down. That's why we have to keep expanding the training centres, take care of all the injuries. But City were at 67. They were one of the lowest. My thoughts on that, and my question is, do you think that's a testament, A, to the brutality of the English league schedule combined with the European schedule, and then B, City's low number, does that really make the argument that they just keep buying up good players so they can replace a first team with a first team with a first team whenever they need it, which disadvantages pretty much the rest of the league?
Yeah, to answer your first question, yes. Yeah, the congestion, the unwillingness to take that break in the winter, and all the cups seemingly falling on top of each other all at once, even though there's a lot of things where you can mitigate those with rotation. Hence, that's part of my answer for B. The the whole city thing, yeah, I think yes, buying players that would start for every other team in the league and putting them on your bench is very helpful in not getting as many players beat up because you can just throw out a like for like replacement for whatever competition you feel like doing. Not everybody, even us others, big dogs, have that just endless supply of players. There always comes that little stopgap at any position. Yeah, we may be deep in the forward line or defense in any given year, but then something like this year where the midfielders just all die at once and you're just going, oh, that's not great. Oh, Arthur. But yeah, that's something where I think a lot of these teams are trying to just do the best they can to make the most of all the games that they have at their disposal, but it's just it's just untenable, really.
Uh, it seems also that from the player perspective and from the supporters perspective watching it, we can say that there's a ton of injuries. Um, but do you think also that the owners, especially in light of that Super League that they were trying to put together, the club owners and UEFA as well to an extent, and the Premier League because they're always chasing the money, do you think they're looking maybe at the players as almost like machines that don't need any sort of rest or recuperation or recovery? Or do you think there might be a genuine reassessment of the schedules to kind of ease it for what is essentially their product, which is the players?
You'd hope that it would be the latter, that there would be a lightening of all the loads that these guys have to carry, because like you just said it, the players are the product. And if you have stars or even just bit players on big teams going down with this frequency, you're going to diminish the product, and that is not good business. But hence my just genuine apathy to it. If I don't think they're ever going to do anything as long as these television and radio and all of these streaming services continue to throw the money that they throw at them. That they'll only want more games. They want going back to the Nations League with UEFA. They want friendlies to mean something. They want these summer tours to have trophies and make that mean something, where it should just be warm-ups and guys going out there signing autographs for people in places that normally wouldn't get to see them, run about for 90 minutes, get on the bus and go home.
It's almost, I don't know if you are or ever have been like a WWE wrestling fan, but it's almost like, when I was a kid watching everything led up to a main event, whereas it seems to be now, and the few times that it like a WWE show has happened to be on the television when I haven't turned it off after watching a game or something like that, everything is a main event, and at some point you're going to burn people out if every time they perform, especially in terms of soccer players where it's competitive. They have to be on their A game at every single thing they do. It's gonna rip players apart, really, isn't it? At least mentally, if not physically.
I think it's both. Making everything quote unquote important. Yes, that's what advertisers want to see. They don't want to have their stuff be on the B or C game in a given week. So they have to just pump importance into every single game. And that is going to cause a lot of undue stress just by osmosis, where you're going, all right, I shouldn't have to worry too much about this one. It's a midweek game against Southampton, and you're going, all right, I can kind of like go half speed, and then you see the full NBC crew there and all these other outlets, and you're just going, oh great, I have to just go full throttle, be on everything again. And yeah, okay, that comes with being a professional, but there's also a person behind that professional, where you're just going, I my body can only take so much, and if I have a bad game, it's my third game in 3 days, people are still going to crucify me without putting the context together that, oh no, I just played 270 minutes in a week in 3 different competitions where I'm expected to win them all. It's rough.
Um, there was a time way back when you would be as a it doesn't really matter, Liverpool fan, Arsenal fan, United fan, where you'd be happy to see your players play international football because it was almost a badge of honor that your players were that good to get selected. Do you think, from our perspective as Liverpool fans, because we discussed it yesterday a little bit about Trent, that you'd almost be hoping that international managers won't be picking your players because those international weeks will give them an opportunity for much needed rest?
Yeah, and I think this is a drum that we've been beating on this show for a couple weeks now, where it's, yes, for the player, you want them to go showcase themselves on an international stage, but as a fan of Liverpool, you have to be selfish sometimes and want them to just stay out of it, especially we've beaten the Trent thing to death, of a guy that's in a just ascendant position in terms of his career, and to go to an international break and just absolutely be mentally messed with and just demeaned, whether it be on purpose or just, as we talked with Southgate, by pure idiocy. He's going to come back, and we don't know how he's going to deal with that. And that's not the greatest thing when you're trying to just battle for the league. When you have a guy that you really rely on, that could be a bit mentally broken.
How much impact do you think the World Cup coming up is going to have on that statistic, especially for the Premier League, which is not in it's not an English league for English players like it would have been in the 90s thereabouts, or even into the mid 2000s. It's an international league for international players who will now go off and play the biggest international tournament in history for a single sport, and then in the middle of seasons, not even at the end of seasons, it's going to be in the middle. So how much impact do you think the World Cup is going to have on those statistics, especially for the Premier League?
I think it's either going to amplify them or keep them where they are, because I think a lot of teams have been trying, especially with the way that the fixture list has been moved to accommodate the World Cup, and now with the Queen's passing, all of those games that got moved and are going to just be stuck in there. A lot of teams are trying to just do whatever they can to make it work with makeshift lineups and everything. And okay, you may have saved a couple more star players, but I think you're going to just get the same amount of injuries. It's just not going to be the players that were getting wiped out before. I really think that this, while the tournament's going to be fun and I'm going to watch a lot of it, we're going to get a lot of, and especially with Liverpool, with how many guys we're sending, I'm not very hopeful that we're going to come back without some attrition from that tournament.
Moving on just a little bit and kind of connect it a little bit in terms of, as we talked about our midfield struggles in terms of injuries. We have an old midfield. Henderson is still a big player in the England team. But he's getting close to Zimmer frame age for getting around the field. Milner doesn't play international football, but we can't rely on his Keith Richards-like abilities to regenerate a few months. So what we've seen today, just in terms of rumors, because generally that's all you have during international breaks when no managers get sacked, especially Brendan Rodgers. Not that I'm bashing him, Alan. Is this one here? In terms of, it almost feels like we're going to get priced out of a move for Jude Bellingham, who was the hot ticket for Liverpool for a while. Reds not ruling out move for Benfica's 21-year-old Argentinian midfielder Enzo Fernandez from a decent Benfica team. They're usually decent. I don't know much about this player. If you know anything about this player, what do you know? A, and B, if neither of us know anything about the player, what does that say for our ambitions that we're going from probably the hottest midfield prospect in Europe to somebody have to go look up on Wikipedia?
Yeah, and I have I'll say rudimentary knowledge of him because I have a lot of friends who are Benfica fans. So every time somebody comes in, they go absolutely nuts about it, regardless of if the player is young or old. So yeah, he just came in this summer, so it would just be Benfica moving him on for a substantial fee if they were doing that. And looking at that release clause, I don't think that we'd pay that much. I hope not. If you won't pay that for Bellingham, a guy who I view as a step down from that, not a leap off the cliff step down, but you're at the bottom of the stairs step down. And that doesn't really do anything significantly different from what we have in our midfield. He's just significantly younger. I really don't have any more than that. He'd be a good player to bring in, and he would have a link with Nunez on that front of just knowing the Benfica system, and they could have, even though they didn't play together, they could have that link up with them, just kind of having that similar knowledge, and that would be beneficial. But other than that, I'm hoping it's just kind of, yeah, what you said, filling in the gaps of a slow news day.
It does say something though, almost. Do you think, in terms of there was not a huge debate, but there was always a slight kind of debate about where the success Liverpool were having under Klopp was coming from. Was it all Klopp, or was Michael Edwards a massive part of it? And Michael Edwards is now gone, and now we're starting to get people like Arthur Melo, who was essentially almost a midfield Balotelli by the sounds of things. They're just not interested, not fit, not looking to. I mean, he's on a 6-month loan or whatever it is, half season loan, full season loan. So he's not really invested. Do you think the fact that we're getting our rumored targets at least reduced in terms of status, maybe a slight damning indictment on the new guys who are in charge of our transfers, because it doesn't feel like even looking at the Twitter and Facebook and all the rumor mills and whatnot, it doesn't feel like we're getting attached to the what do we call them, the hidden players that we used to just find and make into superstars. Do you think there's something to be said for, especially with how badly, this is the longest question on the planet, by the way, but especially with how badly we're doing so far this season, that maybe the departure of Edward has disjointed our entire approach?
There has to be something to it. I don't think it's something where the entire transfer and recruiting process has just completely been burnt to the ground. But there is something right now where you go from being linked to kind of like the top echelon prospects to kind of, without just kind of shoehorning Bellingham in there as a wishful thinking type of deal, and seeing how much money they want from all these other clubs and going, oh, okay, maybe if Liverpool could pay this, then they would, without any real just formal link, so to speak. Having these other guys, yes, and there could be some diamonds in the rough there. Yes, and as you were saying, Arthur is not one of those. Let's just put that bluntly. But I'm of the mind that there's going to come a time where you have to really just not necessarily trust the process, because that's a phrase that just bothers me. That's management going, you don't get this because you're stupid. But the thing with transfers in my head is, there's guys that are going to come in and flop, and there's guys that you think are going to flop that do good. And just letting Klopp get the best possible options and letting him find out which ones are going to fall into what camp is all I can ask for.
In terms of the scouting, etc. Because we've started saying we don't know a hell of a lot about this Enzo Fernandez player. It's certainly not somebody that pops up on the radars in the way Jude Bellingham has. But Arthur Melo was like, we've been under Michael Edwards, at least we've been known to really research players, to hide in the parking lots and see how they get into their car, etc. Like real in-depth. This is the right player for Liverpool versus this player, threw some garbage on the ground and slapped the kid in the face. We don't want them. Kind of really getting in depth into their character. It's almost like we just picked the name out of a hat with Arthur Melo, almost, isn't it? Because he really doesn't fit anything we're doing, tactically or culturally, even.
Oh yeah, and when Timuchin and I talked about it initially, and then the reports came out that he had like this full medical team with him at all times that he was paying for to like get him fit. I go, weren't you just playing at Barcelona, then at Juventus? How are you so out of it and you're going to come into a pressing system and you're just gassed playing 20 minutes. How is that a sensible transfer for how Liverpool wants to play and
Yeah.
how Klopp wants to build a team? I think that just reeked of last second. Oh God, my kid wanted cereal. I just ran down the aisle. I didn't even look what it is, and I got him Weetabix. Oh no.
Well, I won't have wheat banded, but just putting that out there to the universe. It's a fantastic cereal, but yeah, it does seem like that, doesn't it? There's not an awful lot of research seem to have gone into it. It's almost like the people that are in charge now kind of, there's stories of Michael Edwards himself actually going to spy on players and see what they're like in training, etc. It's almost like the new guys just sat at their desks on their laptops and did a few stats things on who scored or pros, whatever they're using these, and then just
Yeah,
sorted by tackles or something like that on their Excel spreadsheets,
they opened a
and then he
couple
was at the
gold
top.
packs on FIFA.
Yeah. But yeah, so in terms of Enzo Fernandez, we don't know an awful lot about him. You almost hope it's a rumor more than anything else, don't you?
Yeah, because it's something where if it's uh, and that could also just be something leaked by the Benfica camp to start a bidding war. Because a lot of times these Portuguese clubs and Benfica is renowned for it. Maybe renowned's not the word for it, where they pull these South American kids up, give them just a spotlight in Europe, however short that time is, and then just sell them on for stupid profits. That could just be something they're doing and going, oh, Liverpool needs midfielders. Let's just kind of send that out there that this kid's on their radar, and then you get 7 Spanish teams going, "Oh, no, 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 no. No, he has to come here. He has to come here." And then all of a sudden, a guy that you bought for 5 million is going for 55, and nobody knows who he is.
Or maybe it's a case that they want Newcastle or Forest to buy because Newcastle have the money and Forest are just buying everybody at this point. I
I
think
was gonna say, does Forest have any room left in their stadium for players, fans,
there's
anything?
there's a spare toilets around there somewhere. They can throw a few in there. They've got room for
Yeah.
about 3 more. Sticking on the midfield, but talking about the outgoings, just on that connected now, because Alan says, selling Kate to Dortmund and paying whatever would be the best option for both clubs and players. There is a rumor that Kate will go to Dortmund, but at the end of his contract when he's free. How much of a mess is that situation for us as a club right now?
Yeah, and we talked about Naby yesterday, just his unreliability and his really unwillingness to kind of take, I don't want to say take personal responsibility, but just take a little bit of agency into how it hasn't worked for either him or the club, and that we just need to part ways, but do it in a way that helps everybody. Because if he leaves on a free, then that's n- not great for us. But if if he just sits there and refuses moves in January, then what does that say about him? And then Dortmund, a team that is kind of like in the good graces with us, that could use his services, especially if Bellingham is on his way out there. I'm not trying to say they are comparable players at this stages of their career, but it's, one in, one out, and a guy that has Bundesliga experience is valuable. That it's just a mess that should have been taken care of already and didn't, and now there needs to be just some sort of rectification of that situation, and hopefully in January for anything. Yeah, not going to recoup all your money. You've said that a bunch of times. It was a really big fee that is not even going to see probably 30% of that. But to get something and to get the player moved on to a team that can use him and that we can respectfully get him there in one piece is just, yeah, it's beneficial for both clubs and all parties involved.
Speaking of relationships between clubs, because obviously between Klopp and any other business, we've generally got and the supporters as well. There's a great rapport between the Liverpool and Dortmund supporters. I think it's been shown time and again. The next story and the last one for today is this one here. FSG to replicate Man City and other American owners in a multi-club network of football teams. What do we think of that? Is this a good thing for Liverpool, or is this something that, as we discussed on one of the other shows, and many of the other shows actually, a bit specifically about Todd Bowley coming into Chelsea and trying to change things to the way he understands them? Do we have the resources to make this happen? And number two, is it a good idea to put money into another club, especially when, if I remember correctly, both Tranmere and Wigan used to be our feeder clubs anyway, even though we didn't own any of them. But yeah, I was serious though, is this a good idea for Liverpool, or is this another money-making scheme that's going to put us in jeopardy way down the line?
Now, and the key part of what you said is, do they have the resources? And I don't know the ins and outs of their books, but if they do have the resources, I'd say it's a very worthwhile investment, because you've seen just with some of these rosters what you can move guys around, you can test coaches out, you can do all of these things that like City Football Group and what like Red Bull Football have done. You can do a lot with a multi-club system. But harkening back to your last point, if it's something where there's going to be a significant financial outlay and it's going to ruin the rest of your organizations in your businesses and your teams and all that, don't overstep your bounds just because City's doing it or in Chelsea wants to do it. Don't be that kid that needs the same toy as the rich kids because you just like it. Have there be some, yeah, they have the Red Sox. I think they have the Penguins in the NHL and a couple other teams. But and I think they have either a Formula One or an IndyCar team too. But it's something where if those investments could go south as well, and just adding more mouths to be fed. If you can't do it responsibly and financially, don't. But what I love to see, like, I don't know, Liverpool, Austria, that would be great. And maybe sometimes you'd find some players that you could bring into your team and not have to pay £75 million for. I think it would be helpful, but not if it's something where they would just be cutting off their own hands to. I fucked up that analogy. I'm sorry.
It's tomorrow. We could have big metaphors.
Yeah.
But in terms of from a cultural perspective, Liverpool fans, at least since the times of Bill Shankly, have kind of considered, the culture of the club to be more socialist than capitalist. Do you think it's something that the supporters would accept in terms of, going global and being one of these, quote unquote, big clubs that are splashing the cash? I mean, we want to be successful, but do you think that it'd be something that Liverpool fans maybe globally would accept, but in Liverpool itself and around Anfield, where they would say, that's it's a bit too capitalist for our liking, because we're the Bolshe Reds and we have a specific philosophy.
No, I understand that, and this is, of course, coming from an American perspective, so I don't really have that down on the ground type of mentality with it. And that's on me, because that's also a thing that needs to be taken into account, is how the people that would be going into the stadium every day would take something like that, because they are going to be there. They're the ones making the noise. They're the ones buying the tickets, and the majority of the support that the players draw from are in that building. So they're very important to what decisions are made. So if it's something where they did like a club, like a pure club vote, and then did that, I'd be down with it. And you just have a discussion, not just this is what it is and y'all are going to like it. And I think Liverpool, even with the new people that have come in, even after like FSG started, like the lower tier investors into it, if you can just have a conversation with people, I think it goes a long way. I think it'd be good, but if it stretches you too thin, no. But we'll see.
To be fair, FSG generally have been, I think, haven't they, noticeably good at interacting with the supporters groups to make sure that the larger moves, at least not on the field but off the field, have been acceptable to the local Liverpool support, haven't they?
They've tried, at least. They've the effort's there, and that's, I think, more than you can ask for in a lot of places when you're dealing with billionaires coming in, and they, even if it's kind of patronizing, just getting input in makes you feel like you mean something to these people that can just significantly alter the state of your club at the snap of a finger.
It's probably a subject that's gonna return, but it's definitely a sword, isn't it? There's benefits and then there's disadvantages, and it could go really well or it could go really, really badly if we get it wrong. Correct?
Yeah, there's definitely a lengthy list in both the pro and con column, and that's why I think it shouldn't be a, oh, look what they did, flavor of the week type deal. It should be a lot of due diligence and making sure the clubs that you're trying to bring under your wing in other countries have that same culture and that willingness to kind of not necessarily fall in line, but just be philosophically in sync.
Yes, so let's all look forward to the new branch of Liverpool in the second division of Luxembourg professional league, where we can send the next generation of Trents and Curtis Joneses to do their apprenticeship rather than the cold, wet fields of Wigan. Trevor, great to talk to you as always. That's the end of our show for today. We will be back tomorrow, the same very early time for the last time this week, and then I think we're back to the normal times next week with Tamuchin.
Yeah, I think we're back at 9 next week.
Not back at 9, so I get another 30 minutes lying. Then yes, make sure everybody likes and subscribes down there. Watches
hit all the buttons.
Hit all the buttons. Smash them, as Tamuchin says, but don't smash them so hard that you need a new laptop or desktop or phone. Yes, so a blank weekend coming up for us. So just finding ways to look at these international games that are all on Fox. I think they are now. Thanks very much, Fox, for not being on my service. I have to find other ways to watch them. And we will be back tomorrow for the last week. We've got an interesting thing to talk about that Alan mentions today. Alan, it's a very serious topic, but it needs to be discussed, I think. And other than that, we will search for more news for you in the dull international week of useless Nations League games that Ireland don't even have any stake in because we are terrible. And Alan, just for Alan, we will bash Brendan tomorrow. We will bash him royally. I don't mean that in any euphemistic way. Trevor, have a good day today.
You as well, my friend.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.